All right then, so let's go ahead and start creating the API now. So what we need to do is first we need to create an API. So in order to, okay, so now what we need to do is let's get back over here, and inside this app folder I'm going to create a new folder called API, and inside this API I'm going to create a new subfolder called jobs, and inside this jobs folder I'm going to create a new file called route.ts or OTA. Please make sure that it should be route.ts file. Okay, so inside this route, now what we are going to do is we are going to import certain things. So before that, what we need to do is get back into your library file, because we need to create the database instance, right? The DB instance to access your Prisma client. Okay, so in order to access that, what we need to do is in the library file I'm going to create a new file called db.ts. Oops, not sb, need to be db.ts. All right, so here now I'm going to import the Prisma client first. So Prisma client, from where? From the Prisma client. Make sure it's been imported from the Prisma client, and I'm going to declare a global variable, global, open it. So variable Prisma, it's going to be the Prisma client instance type, or it's going to be an undefined. Either it's going to be the type of Prisma client, or it's going to be the type of undefined. Okay, now export const db is equals to global this dot Prisma, access that Prisma instance from this global variable, then, or it's going to create a new Prisma client, because in which case we don't want to reinitiate the Prisma client over and over and again. So that's the reason we are checking that. So if it is already initialized, we should not do that. So if the process dot env dot node env, if that mode is not equals to production, if it is not equals to the production mode, which means we are not deployed, then use this global this dot Prisma as db. So we are assigning the db instance which we created to this global this dot Prisma. Okay, so this, by this way we can keep it the Prisma client as a single instance. So then what we can do is now we can close this, and let's get back over here inside the route. So here I'm just going to create a function. So here export const post function, because we are going to save the data and it's going to be an asynchronous function. Let's get the callback function over here, and inside this I'm going to get the request, which is going to be the type of this request itself, request. Okay, inside here I'm going to get the try and catch, open in the try and catch. If any cases, if you're running into an error, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say console.log whatever the error it is. Let's get the conditional strings, and here I'm just going to say job underscore post method. From that's the place we are running into this specific error, so we are going to print that error. Then we need to return a response. So return new next response, which is coming from next server, and open it, and it is going to throw the internal server error, and which is being thrown by the with the status as 500. Okay, so please make sure that is being imported from the next server, next response being imported from the next server. All right, now I need to access the user ID, which is we can access that user ID from where? From the auth instance provided by the clerk, and from there I can able to access the user ID. Please make sure this user ID can be accessible only in the server side component. Okay, then I'm gonna get the title const title, title title. Okay, and here using this await, I'm gonna get that from the request.json, await request.json. From this JSON I'm going to get this title, which I'm going to pass through by the time whenever I'm calling this API over here. Okay, so then that is going to be the thing, and please make sure, so the remaining fields are need to be optional, right? So if everything is, if it's a compulsory field, then you need to, by the time when you're saving your data, you need to give that data. So here user ID and title is the compulsory field, and by default boolean value that is not an optional, but we set the default value over there, and for the created and updated time, and the saved uses and this tag uses, I think that would be what we can do is right now. Okay, let's try. If it is not allowing us, then we will worry about it later. Okay, so here now, then what we need to do is right after here, if not user id, if you don't have the user id, then what we need to do, return new next response as what, unauthorized. The user is unauthorized to do the something. So then I'm going to send the status as 401. Okay, then if I don't, let's do the same thing. If I don't have the title field, then here I'm just going to say title is missing, and this is should be 401. Okay, let's keep it as the same error itself. Okay, then if we have the both, now what I need to do, I need to create the job. Const job is equals to, okay, right after that, now await db, access this instance from the library file which we created, db dot job. So because of the generated the command npx prisma generate, we should able to access the job schema in the local client instance. Okay, that's the reason we generated it. So job dot create, we are going to create only one record. Then I'm going to send the object which is going to be the data, and the data, of course, it's going to be the user id field itself, then the title itself. Please make sure that you are sending the exact same user id and the title, user id and the title. Okay, so this should able to create that instance, and at the end I need to return the next response. I need to return that json data which is going to be the job. So this is the route, and let's get back to the create instance where we are going to use that. So on submitting, I know at this point I'm getting the data, then I'm going to get the try and catch over here, try and catch. If there is any error is happening, console.log, I'm going to print that error but not directly. So I'm going to get that error as error type, then I'm going to get that message, whatever the message is, I'm going to print it in the console. Then here I need to give that toast notification. We haven't added it yet, later we need to add it. So here I'm just going to say const response. I'm going to get that response from where, from await. I'm going to add one package over here which is going to be npm install Axios. So we need the Axios to trigger the API. All right, so here I'm gonna add the Axios, okay, which is not showing me. So right, let me import it by myself. So right after here, import Axios from where, Axios. Okay, so that's the thing. All right, so now right after here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the Axios. So axios.post method, open it, then go to the slash API folder, then go to the jobs. I think that's the folder, right? Inside the API and the jobs. Okay, go to the API slash jobs. Then I'm going to supply the values into it. So the title being passed, we can access the title over here. Then we are creating the job instance. So values. And once everything is done, I'm just going to, for the time being, console.log, I'm going to say that response, print that response. Okay, so now let's get back over here and run the application. So let's start our server, npm run dev. Let's open the console and keep it over at the here at the bottom. Console, close it, and let me close this. I think so far there is no issues at all. So everything is being successfully loaded. Let me keep the network. Okay, keep the network empty. And here I'm just going to say sample job or something like that, and click the continue. And you should be able to see it's been triggered, that API, and it is pending. And you should be able to see it is success. See, if I click this, and I should be able to see the data. See, what are the data that I do have: ID, user ID, title, description, short description, image, URL, and the rest of the fields are being empty. And if I get back over here and if I click the job over here, and if I get to the data, you should be able to see that data, see sample job, which we successfully created over here, right? And by default, the is published field is as a false. Okay, so this is the thing that we have successfully created ourselves and save the data into the MongoDB over there. So then what we need to do is we should able to we need to add the toast provider, and we need to start editing the job, single job details, and that's what we are going to do next.